Hello! Hello, everyone. I think I'm live. If everything is working correctly, my microphone is peaking quite a bit. We're going to turn that down. Alicia, would you like to say hello?
Hello.
You're off camera.
I'm off camera.
Hi. Welcome to our very first Nice Moves live stream event, where I feel very uncomfortable being this close to ostensibly everyone here. If you heard some laughing, that was our upcoming guest, Michael Van Swearingen, laughing out of place. But yeah, okay, so here we are, live streaming. We got some Hayes in the chat. And Peter's going to go to Taco Bell. That's great. All right. Okay. Alicia gave me a note. My producer, Alicia, gave me a note that there's a small echo. I don't know what I can do about that.
Oh, now your mic is fine. It's fine.
Okay. Maybe I was just too close before. So it's nice to be back doing monthly meetups with you all. And I'm going to assume that as many people are here right now as there are normally in our meetups, because it makes me feel better. And it is very strange to not hear all of the raucous laughter that I would normally get after saying something like that. But let's see. I wanted to talk about Minecraft because Minecraft has actually been helping me get through this weird time. For some reason, digging a hole very far down and just living in it is very soothing for me. Like, I've never really played Minecraft before, but now is the time to talk with my friends, share some diamonds with them, and virtually fight zombies with them. Because, you know, motivation is very hard to come by in times like this. And I've always kind of prided myself on being able to focus and get stuff done. And even in the past couple months here, I've found that extremely difficult. And I just wanted to kind of talk about that with you all because I want you to know that it's okay to feel like that and you are not alone. And like, this is way more personal than I usually get when I do my my sort of preambles, but you're in my living room, so here we are. What else? Oh, speaking of finding motivation very difficult, we had an AniJam, and we actually had like 15 submissions. Thank you to everyone that contributed to that, because it's kind of like virtually fighting zombies with you all. And if you have not seen it yet, here we go. Hopefully this works. And
I'm coronavirus. Don't quarantine. Let me into your body and see what I mean.
Lick it.
Achoo!
What you making? Oh, thank you.
It's a prune cake.
Why?
Prunes make me poop.
I plan on taking a lot of BMs during this quarantine.
Do you think if I drink this stuff, it'll clean my insides?
Thank you again to everyone that submitted to our AniJam. It was kind of a passion project for kind of a passion a project for Mike Owens. So big shout out to him and our what do we call it?
The committee, the AniJam committee.
The AniJam committee
Danny
and
Hangle, Julia Iverson, Anna Fott, Shelby Pearson. I think that's it. I mean,
and if we forgot your name, it's not because we forgot you. We are just very nervous right now. um. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the AniJam?
let us know if you want to definitely do more in the future.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of fun putting it together. It was stressful, and what makes it really worth it is if the community finds value in it. So let us know if you want us to do more of those in the future, because who knows how long we're going to be in quarantine. Sad note. Moving on. Let us introduce our guest. Our guest is Michael Swearingen, and he's going to talk about
Hi.
Do I have a scene here that's both of us? Yes. Boop. Let me fix it before we show your pretty face. Boop. There. Hello, Michael.
Am I there? Am I
Yes,
here?
You
Hi.
are here.
Hello.
Can you talk real quick?
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Or
All right, cool.
what I assume is perfect. Michael Van Swearingen is a bright young boy who, full disclosure, we, meaning Alicia and myself, as Flora and Fauna, we heart him very much, and we helped produce his short film that he'll be talking about here in a second. But we had nothing to do with his awesome reel or his amazing talent. Whoops.
That's not entirely true.
Subtitle still says AniJam. That's all right. Yeah, we provided some guidance, but we cannot guide unless there's someone with amazing skills, something or other. Am I embarrassing you enough yet?
No, I'm soaking it up. Don't worry about it.
What's your URL? Is it michaelvanswear.com?
MichaelVanSwear.com, @MichaelVanSwear on social. Instagram, sort of, kind of Twitter. Vimeo? I think my Vimeo is Michael Vance where it should be.
Let's do you do an intro in your talk?
I do an intro in my talk.
Okay, so we don't have to do one here. So on that note, Michael is going to give a presentation on his short film Turnout, and it's going to be about 45 minutes or so with a Q&A afterwards. So stick around in the YouTube chat. We'll be taking questions and whatnot. So here we go. Michael, it is your turn. I should have done this before.
You're good.
Group and transition to Michael now.
Is it the screen? Is my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. What's up, guys? What's up, gamers? We talking about Minecraft earlier? I was playing Minecraft as soon as this whole thing started because I got all my friends on a server and Animal Crossing hadn't come out yet. So hey, yeah, I'm Michael Van Swearingen. I worked on a short film called Turnout with Alicia and Emery. I'm a motion designer in the cities. Let's start getting this little slideshow going. Check it out. There I am. Hi, that's me, Michael Van Swearingen. Yeah, motion designer. Graduated from Stout in 2016. I'll go into a little bit of more of my experience after I play my reel, which I'll play right now. No sound on Michael's comp. Well, you guys missed a wonderful track by Kiro Kiro Benito called Sick Beat. So just play that sometime. We'll probably have to figure out audio for the actual short, but I'm going to keep moving forward with a little bit of my experience. I hate sound. You're right, Glenn. Sound sucks. All right. So, some experience. Graduated from Stout 2016. Did an internship at Knock the summer of 2016. So I graduated winter of 2016. Internship at Adult Swim, summer of 2017. That was awesome. I worked on their live streams, learned a lot about just like on set, being a PA, doing some film stuff, which was pretty chill. Also, there's a mic, oh no, never mind, we're good. So that was great. Came back to the cities. Yeah, there's a mouse that just kind of keeps going on the live stream. Just a quick mention. Came back, did some freelance around the cities, contract with Knock a little bit more. Met up with Peter for Hellivision. So some of y'all might recognize me from. So some of y'all might recognize me from this little bit with Peter, where we introduced the new Hellivision, which is Hellivision Television Network. It's not an animation show. So continuing forward in the timeline, I worked at Spy for a little bit. Many of you might not know what that is, audiovisual integration. And I met a couple cool guys that connected me with Target, and now I'm contracting at Target while also picking up some freelance on the side. So that's a little bit about my experience and where I'm at. That's what I'm currently doing. I feel grateful to be connected with them and be getting work right now. And I've been doing a little something. Check my Instagram to see some more recent stuff I've been doing. But we're here to talk about Turnout. We can do some more Q&A stuff if you're curious, or just like hit me up and I can talk more about my experience and whatever. So let's move forward with the short film. We're just going to kind of get into it. We're just going to play the film, and then we're going to talk about process, and I'm going to kind of push through it. If you have questions during, feel free to hop in, and we'll answer them towards the end, or if they overlap with what I'm talking about, I'll touch on them. So hopefully audio works. Give me a heads up if it doesn't, and we'll try to just make it work. We're learning. We're doing tech issues on the fly, so let's get it. So there you have it. That's Turnout. That's a short film that I worked on from November to February, and now we're going to talk more about it. We're going to get into the sauce. We're going to also, thanks for the nice words in the chat. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it, guys. So let's go backwards a little bit to where this started. I'm gonna like roll through this thing, and if there's questions, drop them in the chat, and then we'll either get to them as I see them, or we'll get to them at the end. So please ask questions. Thank you guys so much. You guys are really nice. I'm like reading. I know there's a little bit of a delay, but I'm reading this as they pop up, so I appreciate it. All right. This actually started January 2019. Jacob Huffcutt and Dan Forkey and I were meeting up weekly to try to motivate each other to make short films. And originally, this thing was supposed to be made in like 2 months or less, and totally with free time, no budget, etc., etc. So what I'm showing right now is the work that was completed around then. We all fizzled out. None of us finished our short films, and they all went in short film purgatory, as short films do. But I managed to, get a bunch of sketches together. I was moving along with boards. I had just about everything boarded except the train scene. I even had so much as model sheets. Like, I was ready to go. I kind of wanted to get moving on this thing. And finally, here was some concept art that I threw together. But like I said, most short films do purgatory. Around that time was actually when I started at Target, so that took a majority of my focus away. But it wasn't until September of 2019 that I joined the Motion 504 crew at Blend and stayed with Alicia and Emery of Flora and Fauna. And during one of the talks, I can't remember which one specifically, but we were asked to turn to people around us and mention side projects, short films, personal projects that we were working on. And that kind of sparked the conversation with Alicia and Emery about how they wanted to pivot from directing with Flora and Fauna and actually start producing short films. So they asked if I had anything going on. I showed them all the work that I had, and they were sold on it. And I was very excited to move forward with that. So from there, we met up. We talked about budget. We found a budget that worked, and then it was just like, okay, like, cool. Like, I was in a place where I just finished off paying my student loan, so I had some freedom to kind of take some time off of freelance, and the budget provided me like just enough to pay rent, groceries, and work on this thing, which, I was in the right spot for it. So I was happy to pick it up. So there I was, alone, cowpoke, ready to take on the world. But I had a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainty. I asked some director friends who have produced or who have directed their own short films. It was a really unique opportunity, so I figured, like, yeah, now's the time. I'm in kind of like this in between, like, my career. I was in a comfortable spot, and maybe I could just take a break from some freelance to just like totally dig into a personal project. And so I did. So it was like in October that we started moving forward with a schedule. I had everything that I'd shown before, and I was going to Pictoplasma in New York with Jake and Dan, actually. So before I left, I wanted to get character profiles done, updated script, and updated boards with an animatic, rough audio. So it was like this schedule had changed. I think this was like the final schedule we ended up on. The initial one was a little less generous, and some stuff was maybe moved around. But ultimately, this is what we ended up following. And we divvied out roles. So Foreign Fauna played producers, I played director, and ultimately like had control creatively over everything. Where if I needed some extra help, we would discuss where we would pick up extra help, et cetera, et cetera. So they left everything in my control, and then they allowed themselves to play a role of like creative feedback and handled budgeting, contracts, and everything else. So moving forward was okay. So I made all that. Okay, yeah. So moving forward, I'm really big on lists, and you can see with my initial sketches, just like listing stuff out and kind of seeing what fits, and starting from scratch that way. I then created some boards of some design styles I was into, some lighting, some colors that I was into, and then just kind of some generic New York clutter. And it was around that time that I finished my animatic, which we don't really need to play sound. I'll peek in with some sound because I have the initial audio, which was recorded with me and my friend Danny with the help of Dan Forkey.
So what do you think?
Yeah, here's us talking.
This is dope, man. Like crazy good.
Okay, that's all you get. So this gives you a glimpse at where my what my boards kind of looked like. I kind of go with like a thumbnail, more of a thumbnail-y, sketchy approach because it's in 3D and the only person I'm informing is myself. I'm kind of allowed to just like cut all the corners I want. And ultimately, like I followed this very acutely. Like the pacing in this animatic fed the rest of the short, like down to the individual frames that I was counting. So I didn't really leave the animatic behind other than adjusting brief camera angles. So from there, it was time to move on to characters, and I made some boards of styles that I enjoy, and then I kind of wanted to lean into the designer toy, that matte finish that looks really nicely in Redshift. So I did some character profiles on Sven and Tobin. I really did a deep dive, and characters, are something that I really wanted to focus on in this short. So I wanted to take my time to make sure that they were well sculpted and hopefully provide some subtle animation that gives a glimpse into their backstory. And I did these big write-ups of like who they are and where they came from, and there's like a whole little precursor of how Sven gets his scar and kind of how their relationship developed. So modeled, textured, rigged, did all the things for these guys in like a couple weeks. Got the cop, the antagonist. He's chilling. He's just a little silhouette lit up by some lights that follow him around. And I mean that's the character. So then from there, it's time to get the environments moving. So one of my influences was a movie called MFKZ, who Studio 4C, who also did Tekon Concrete, Black and White, great films. Always these super detailed environments. So a lot of the clutter was informed by some of these stills, and I just went into sketching. Some digital sketches on my iPad allowed me to get to where I got. And I'll kind of just take you through these. Yeah, this is like where all of the clutter was influenced by. And we got the gate, we got the city, we got the train yard, we got the train. So from sketches, hopped into 3D, started building. Simple shapes. This one's a little bit further along. You can see a little glimpse of my rigs here too. So I like hand rig. Everything, hand modeled everything because I'm an idiot and I kind of just wanted to be up to the challenge. I did go into this thinking like I want a piece that is like fully me. I want this thing to do well in festivals, but also I want a portfolio piece that I can show off and say that I had my hands in every part of it. Here's early stages of the alleyway where things are just boxed in. And then here is even earlier stages of the train yard, where just Tobin and Sven for scale, city in the background, where the trains are going to go. So from there, texture, Spider-Man, I think everybody watching right now would agree that that's like, you know, this animation masterpiece that, you know, one still you could just like pull countless inspiration from. And I did want to take the approach where they mentioned like every screenshot of that film, it could be an illustration, and you know that's a huge achievement on its own for one person to do. But it's something that if you kind of set your sights on and lean towards, you know, maybe you can land on something close. So for textures, you know, little bump map with, you know, and little greebles here and there, and just trying to keep things kind of foggy, kind of Blade Runner-y. I'll talk about how that influenced my lighting a little bit later on. Here's some early renders of the alleyway before I made everything pink and purple. And here's I think this was a little bit later on with the train yard. A lot of volumetrics, learning that stuff. And yeah, a ton of this stuff was like learning as I went, which was great. The map painting for the city was a challenge. Just kind of figuring out like what style to go for, because this thing is totally 3D. Map paintings being 2D was a nice challenge. The mural itself was like a huge challenge for me. I struggle with graphic design quite a bit, so I wanted this thing to be good. I wanted it to be made by Tobin in the short to influence Tobin's creative background to kind of justify this leap out of the city. You know, he has his own style, but at the same time I created him, so I had to find this like pseudo style blend where it's his work but also my work, but also I need to be a good graphic designer if Tobin's a good graphic designer. So I started here, which, you know, just kind of has like a generic graffiti vibe to it. I showed it to Peter. Peter Steineck. He said it looked very juvenile. I fully trust Peter's design eye, so he sent me off to do some iterations, which was great because like I had never really done that. I studied animation in school, so I never really got to do the graphic design direction. So this is where I ended up going, and eventually pulled it to here, bringing it to here, and ultimately bringing it to here by bumping up the saturation, tossing in some sketches, maybe some imagery of the short film itself. And I wanted this thing to be like a standalone title piece while also being a piece of graffiti and something we could use on like PR and stuff. Additionally, with texture, this was like a collaborative process. I wanted this to be a collaborative process. So I reached out to some friends to provide graffiti for the short. And this is all the graffiti that is littered around the alleyway and the rooftop. So next time you watch it, we are going to play it again at the end, so maybe keep an eye out in the alleyway for some of those details. And here is the list of credits of everybody that contributed. Thank y'all so much. Some of y'all are in the chat, so really appreciate it. That definitely livened up the scene, and I was really happy that I was able to reach out and have you guys help. So now that things are textured for the most part, you know, all these processes kind of overlap. It was time to like hit animation hard. So I did just some tests to make sure that the rigs work, just a walk running cycle before I dug in. I was happy with it. I didn't end up using these exact walking and running cycles, but it helped kind of like move me forward and give me something to get excited about. So I can play a little bit of the first draft of the animation, which is always fun, where you get to see the characters ice skating, you get to see things break a little bit, and this was mostly to get camera angles set up, just to get shots set up and characters laid out, and just basic timing of the, you know, first round of animation. So let's get some skating going on. That's always fun. Get them running down the alley. It's always a good time. Yeah, there they go. Look at them go. So just getting in initial positions and initial timing, things general to specific. You know how it goes. So I got that moving. I got a kind of essentially an animatic in 3D, and from there you just kind of polish and go over it and over it and over it. I think I'm gonna go. Do I go into lighting now? I think so. But lists are just the way I think things out. With so many little things to do, it just helps to like write things out. So here's a little bit more refined. I think this one has the secondary actions in it. Yeah, so you got the ears moving, which is all hand animated. I know I could have done like physics driven stuff, but that didn't really, doing stuff by hand was just kind of the way I wanted to approach this. I think it's a little masochistic, but it allows me to get a better feel for the timing I want to achieve. Lets me get more specific. I always end up going down a rabbit hole with 3D physics, I feel like. So stuff's still a little rough here, but you can see it starting to come together. And it was around this point that I want to start focusing on lighting. So again, more boards. I'm big on boards. I love boards. Went through Blade Runner, took some stills that I enjoyed. So lots of volumetrics, dark, wet, city, dense. I did this little exercise that like I don't think I looked at after I did it, but I thought it was kind of fun to like chronologically lay out what I wanted the colors and the environment to feel like. So, you have this initial conversation on the rooftop, then them looking at the city, the chase, and then the conclusion. I don't know. Felt good to do. Felt like it kind of pushed me forward, got me excited a little bit. And then here you can see just like a little demonstration of lighting. It's very subtle, but like I don't have a ton of lighting experience. I think that was one of my weakest points going into this was texturing and lighting. So I reached out to some buddies, the Multidult Squad, and my buddy Chris Rutledge helped me with just some basic rim lighting and how far that can take you. And after I did it once, I had just 2 area lights following my characters throughout the entire short, and it just really helps them pull from like the background, along with like adjusting volumetrics in the background and how dense I wanted that stuff to be, just to give it a little bit more atmosphere. So moving forward, we got music, we got sound design. Music was made by my buddy Seafair, Ben Green. We went to UW Stout together, and he was really great to work with. He's a friend of mine, and our communication was just like spot on. He kind of like, he read what I was saying. I gave him like a Spotify playlist of work that I wanted the soundtrack to be influenced by, and he was like right on board with all of it. As well as Sam Landman from Junior Birdman Audio. So I went in to his studio to record the VO, and yeah, it was a great experience directing. I had never directed VO before, and I think like I think my cast just like nailed it. So thanks to those guys. With the music, I kind of wanted this to lean into like a music video vibe. I don't know. I wanted music to influence the short. So a lot of like synthwave from Hotline Miami 2, Katana Zero, Blade Runner. I think if anybody knows any of these references, like you kind of got that from watching it itself. So everything was starting to kind of come together. I was just going through passes of the short, just polishing things, testing lighting. I mean, this is like a 5-minute short, so luckily using Cinema 4D and Redshift and having the live viewport is super helpful, super fast. This definitely wouldn't have been as quick with like a CPU render or testing out every shot and making sure things were looking nice and smooth. But I think this is like close to final render. And here, if I move forward, we have a little bit more of a preview view of, it's a little darker, a little less colorful, definitely not as saturated, as much contrast, but You could see everything was coming together, and it was just like a lot of fun to do. Then you get into this part where things get more specific, and you're trying to hit that 5%. You're trying to get that polish, where you're watching and you're time stamping, and you're saying, well, this, there's a little bit of sliding here, and there's some clipping here, and okay, well, after this time I watched through, these are some things I noticed, and you just kind of go over and over and over again. There was some weird glitching with the motion blur, and essentially I was pulling everything. I hardly did any compositing. I don't have a ton of compositing experience, so like no AOVs, no mats. I was basically pulling straight from cinema and just doing like a Lumetri to really make everything pop. And I was trying my hardest to just like make sure that was going to work. I would have had a lot more control had I gone the other route, but I was happy with, I'm happy with the renders that come right out of Redshift. So I guess after doing that over and over again, we get to the final result, which is Turnout. And just for consistency's sake, and after you see everything, Joel, I was using Joel's computer at 504 quite a bit because that thing is souped up, and that was cranking out renders. Joel had only rendered so fast because the PC you use is absolutely nuts. So yeah, with all that said and done, let's play the short again. Drop some questions in the chat if you want me to answer some questions, and I'll get to those in a minute. So,
Hello. We did it.
Good.
It is Michael and I again.
Just vibing.
Okay. First question from the chat.
Wait, I did want to say like a couple final notes that I would have touched on in my presentation. For one, we did submit to Pictoplasma and it did not get in, and that sucked a little bit. But I am gonna go do some extra polish on this bad boy, and this thing's gonna kick butt in the festival circuit, because right now festivals aren't even meeting up, so we didn't even get a chance to submit to too many, and I am looking forward to that round. On the other hand, I did submit to Scream It Off Screen, and I won $100, which was pretty fun, and there would be a picture of me holding up money, but you kind of saw that picture at the beginning. Additionally, things that got me through, work on that short film for, that was like my full-time gig for from November to mid-February, and there's a couple books, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and 365 DAO that got me through, as well as playing some Zelda to decompress. I made this all out of my bedroom. You can't see the image of my home computer, but there's anime figures and a plant, and that was pretty chill to vibe around during the winter. So thank you. That was just me trying to get through the end of the presentation. And now let's pop on over to the Q&A. Now we're here. Now we're both here hanging out.
We're both
Let's
here.
hear it.
Okay, so you mentioned that you didn't get into Pictoplasma, and I'm not trying to rub it in, but part of your talk about making short films was kind of the disappointments. Can you elaborate on that? Like, what happens when you don't meet those end goals? Do you look back fondly at the film still?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, this is like my first real short film. Like I have my senior thesis that was also way too long and 5 minutes, and at the end of the day, I made something that exists and I can watch and learn from it. I'd also mentioned how this was like a piece where I wanted to represent everything that I kind of had capacity to do, and I have been able to show this to some directors and some other eyes that have gotten me more work. Like, oh, this guy can model, this guy can fill up scenes, and I've already gotten some work from that without this being fully live. So while it didn't get into Pictoplasma, I am able to look through this thing, and I see things that I can fix. And with the way festivals are right now, aka like online or non-existent, I have the taken the lemon, turning it into lemonade, and I'm gonna put some polish on this thing and gonna like hit the scene hard once meeting up is chill again.
Okay. Question from the chat. Did you submit to SIGGRAPH and Spark Animation Festival? I feel like
I think we submitted a SIGGRAPH, which, my God, the hoops to jump through for that was funny. Just like the little editing, the timestamp stuff at the beginning and end. I don't think I got into SIGGRAPH. I don't
yeah.
think
I didn't
No.
want to tell you, but we got
No, we
an
definitely
email.
Yeah. And then I don't think we submitted to Spark because we kind of started submitting to things and then COVID happened. And then we're like, maybe we just don't submit because I don't think these festivals are happening yet. So, blessing in disguise.
All right. Question from Todd. What was your favorite part of the process and what felt the most challenging? A 2-part question.
Favorite part of the process was characters. Honestly, character design and character backgrounds. Like, I really enjoyed like trying to get into the heads of Tobin and Sven and create personalities that felt grounded. They only have like a minute and a half of dialogue, and I really wanted to kind of lay that out to kind of represent what was at stake. So trying to simplify dialogue and make their backgrounds expressed through that was like a fun challenge. So I'd say like, yeah, the character design, character animation was tough, but and there's still plenty that I'd like to fix. So yeah, that's just something I'm like really interested in, and so to be challenged by it is like a good thing because it allows me to kind of like exercise a little bit and test myself. So it's kind of one and the same. Was like what I was challenged by was the second part of the question, right?
Yes.
So favorite part. I mean, yeah, I think my favorite part was that because I had so much interest in it and I was challenged by it. So
Yeah,
maybe that kind of informed why it was my favorite.
It's kind of the things that help us grow the most are what end up being our favorite parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Michael, can you do me a favor and stop sharing your screen on Skype?
I sure can.
So I think it might be slowing down your camera.
Stop that. Stop sharing. I'm done. I'm not sharing anymore.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, a question from Peter. Michael, what do you like about animating? What do you like about animation?
Why didn't you ask the other question from Peter that says, Michael, why didn't you work harder on the film?
I'm trying to moderate a little bit here.
What was the question?
What do you like about animating and what do you like about animation?
What I like about animating, and I mentioned character design being one of my favorite parts because I did a lot of theater in high school. I did a lot of improv, and I had heard from a animation professor who had said character animators are just theater like enthusiasts that didn't pursue theater as a career, and I like really resonated with that in that like to get to make like armatures move kind of allows you to put yourself on stage a little bit, and so that I don't know, that's kind of like my favorite thing to do is bring characters to life, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. And what do I just like about animation in general?
Yes.
So, I mean, like, so I'm just big on story, and I just like how animation, without having, real actors and actresses in front of a camera, animation allows you to tell a story and connect through just like kind of whatever. I mean, like I choose characters, but you can use shapes, you can just use colors, you can use sound, and it's all along a timeline. So my favorite part of animation is story and its way to connect through just like visual language.
It sounds like you like control.
I love control. No, I mean, I like storytelling, and I like being able to kind of convey message. I like communication. I like connection, and I like being able to represent ideas in a way that people can just connect with and simmer on and kind of feel a part of and experience.
Can you remind me again what's your Instagram?
At Michael Van Swear.
Perfect. All right, we have another question from the chat from
Heck yeah.
Sketchy Natalia. Can you talk more about the daily reality of focusing on one project that's so personal and nothing else?
Yeah, that was especially with winter, and I don't know if I kind of have a little bit of seasonal affective disorder, which all of us living in Minnesota probably deal with to some degree, and so to go fully inward during the winter, just at home, not going into an office. My bed is over there, and it was like wake up, do my kind of morning routine. I'm a big believer if you're working from home, put on pants like you would if you're going to an office. So I would put on pants and then I would sit down and just kind of get to it and write on my whiteboard what I needed to do. So to really like focus on a project that's personal, it's enlightening in its own way. And like I said, I was getting into Buddhism and Taoism, and that's a lot about self-reflection and looking inwards and like continuing to let things unfold and discover new things about yourself. And I feel like working on a personal short film, especially in a condensed amount of time like that, I'm not giving it much time to breathe. I'm not leaving and coming back to it. Like that was, I think I may have picked up one freelance gig at the very beginning that only lasted like a week. But yeah, it's intimidating in a way because you can just be so close to it that you don't recognize certain things that need to be fixed. And even if I did seek out criticism, it was kind of almost pointless because it'd be like, there'd be a really solid suggestion, but it was like with the timeline that we gave ourselves, which was self-inflicted, but it was like, oh, well, I don't have time to fix that. So like, I agree with you, but you just kind of have to move forward. So, yeah, I'd say it's very enlightening. It kind of just takes you places.
I would like you to elaborate on the idea of it being a personal film because, your references they're trying to figure out a nice way to say this, but they're kind of outside of your own personal growth experience. Is that fair to say? Like MFKZ is about a Spanish language, like kind of slummy place, and you also referenced Spider-Man, which is like very New York City, but you're from Little Canada, Minnesota, right?
Yeah, sure am.
So how do you take those references and make them personal?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I mean, the story itself, follows these two artist buddies, and one of them is deciding to pursue his career, which involves him leaving the city, and the other is a little bit more of like, in his backstory, he's from the Midwest and then comes to the city and is starting to find himself through this kind of like operation, right, where he's like a middleman. And the story itself was coming from my own experience of feeling like I'm doing well in my career and feeling hungry and feeling like I want to pursue it even harder, while having peers that are a little less confident, and it's that little bit of a struggle when you want to get your friend excited, and you see the potential in them, and you want to kind of shake them and be like, yeah, like we could both go do this, like we could kind of both go pursue this thing, but they're kind of stuck in their ways. So I think the fact of putting it in New York was to just exaggerate that idea of a city, of being tied to a cultural stronghold. I don't know. So that was a little bit more for emphasis. So maybe like, your creative culture that you're submerged by, and choosing to leave that and discover a new one. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that, not everyone, they say write what you know, but
Mhm.
it's the kind of wrapper that you put around it that makes it accessible to other people. Because your story here, you've kind of extrapolated it out a little bit to make it about this kind of like drug deal gone wrong. When at the heart of it, for you, it's a story about artists trying to make it, you know. And by adding those little external touches, I feel like you've created an opportunity for other people to kind of get a glimpse inside your world without inviting them into your living room or your bedroom.
I mean, Little Canada, as much as I love that little suburb of St. Paul, it's not the most exciting place for a chase scene. So
yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why animation is so appealing, is because you can create these magical worlds that are an escape for you, right?
yeah, and at the time when I had written it, I hadn't actually been to New York, but it was in between then when I went for a little malt-adult television Baby Castles collab that I actually like kind of became more enamored with the city, and then I visited one more time before like fully digging into this thing, so I felt like a little bit more comfortable placing it there. I did when I initially wrote it, yeah, write what you know, and I was like, I don't live in New York, but I'm gonna just put it there because it's pretty and Blade Runner is cool.
So we have another question from the chat from Geraldise Tilk. When you started working on your film, was there any aspect of the production pipeline that you were worried about?
Compositing. And we talked a little bit about compositing, and we almost brought on a compositor, but at the time and where the direction was headed, it wasn't necessary. And it's something that, had I more experience and forethought, I think would have, pushed this thing even further. I think visually, like, I'm really happy with where it ended up going, but like lighting, texturing, compositing, like the final look was something that I was kind of worried about. Like, I feel comfortable with story. I feel comfortable like editing, and editing dialogue and making that work. But making it pretty was kind of something that I really wanted to hit. So I think that was my initial worry going into it.
Do you feel like you've kind of conquered that worry, or?
I have heard from people that they say they like the way it looks, and that makes me feel good, because I mean, like, as I was pushing it forward and as I was seeing renders come out, and like, you and Alicia gave me an extra set of eyes, and Alicia gave me this amazing tutorial that she made, that allowed me to like push this thing even further. And all of that really helped. So I think sometimes when those are your biggest worries, you do then end up putting a little extra focus on it. And I think it came through. I'm happy with where it ended up. So.
Question from Tokyo Megaplex. Are you going to do more with these characters and add more to the universe?
Or nah. I've been asked that before, but like when I finish a project, I usually want to just like move on to the next thing. Like I'm gonna touch this up, and before it premieres online, I'm gonna edit this thing. There's some pacing and stuff I want to fix, but as far as additional content, I have that prequel stuff that if I'm really itching for some more Sven and Tobin, I think that'd be fun to put out there.
Yeah, and you did write quite a bit of backstory that most people are never going to see.
I got really excited about it. Like there's a moment where like Sven is getting to know Tobin and getting involved in this middleman thing and is starting to get comfortable doing that. And he's like delivering a car, and then he hears a thump in the trunk, and he's there, he's at the drop-off point early, and he looks in the trunk and there's like a person in there, and he's like, oh shit. And all of a sudden, like this like big black SUV comes up that's supposed to pick up this car, and they rough him up, and that's like the origin of him getting the scar on his eye. And Tobin feels like that was like his fault because he got him into this trade, and so that's kind of the precursor to their tension in their relationship. Like they kind of that incident occurred, and then they didn't talk about it anymore. And now Sven has like a permanent mark that he's a part of this middleman agency, and that's kind of part of what's keeping him in the city. Like he's been marked, and he kind of can't go anywhere else because he's found this community here. So there's that kind of message that would be fun to dig into a little bit. So that's your extra canon. That's your exclusive canon from the Minnesota Nice Moves
Exclusive.
live stream. And there is still thoughts and wants to turn these into physical art design toys.
Yeah, if you get some toys, you can make your own little story.
Make it, yeah, at home. My buddy, shout out Sam Franklin, 3D printed them, and I didn't go pick them up today, but they're like about this tall, and they look very nice, and they glow in the dark. And who knows? Maybe I'll just look at them long enough and get the motivation to turn them into physical, more well produced little guys.
Yeah, I think with stuff like this, it's like very natural to have your characters live beyond what you're deciding to show. Like basically your characters have just been edited down and you're only seeing a small portion of their life, but of course there's more. But at this point they're like living in your brain.
I think what's fun about that too is that they only do see the tip of the iceberg, and that's like where it's diluted, right? I almost don't think you're missing out. You're just getting a glimpse into hopefully what feels like a larger universe. I don't know if that's necessarily come across for everybody, but that's like a hope when you do all this backstory stuff, is that like it's in the back of your head, so as you're animating it just kind of naturally flows into what you're doing. I don't know. That was a little bit of my philosophy, hopefully, going into this.
Logan asks, what shots of the film did most of the compositing work go into? I'm a bit of a compositing learner myself.
Well, I'd mentioned that like all of these shots are JPEGs. Like they're just out of Redshift. So the only real compositing I did was to drop a Lumetri color adjustment in After Effects, as well as like a 4 color ramp overlay to like draw the eyes, which was suggested by Alicia, and I think really helped. Like it was funny doing it, feeling like it wasn't really working, but as soon as you turn it on and off, you're starting to like notice the difference in contrast. So that's kind of as far as compositing went. But like if you want to consider like lighting part of compositing, let's see, like having these rim lights follow them around was like a fun challenge, and getting the volumetrics to a place where I wanted was also fun, like reflections and textures to just kind of bring this thing to life. But yeah, biggest compositing challenge was just like doing it all and hoping that all the information can come out in a JPEG.
Let's see. So we have a question about roadblocks, but I think we were talking about COVID earlier and how it's kind of changed everything, and how your festival run plans have had to be significantly altered because of that. So I think instead of talking about roadblocks in general, I would like to talk about how the past couple months have been for you.
See, I thought you said Roblox at first. So I thought you saw like a troll comment, like, we're not going to talk about Roblox, guys. But the past couple months of finishing Turnout, and I don't know, it was weird because I had really bad back pain when I finished. The grind is real, burnout is real. Make sure to stretch. I went to a chiropractor. It was bad. Like I was bedridden for like 3 days. My chair was kind of shitty, and now I have a sick gamer chair with lumbar support that my back hasn't felt an ounce of that since. Then I went snowboarding immediately afterwards and threw myself down an icy mountain. Then I did a chiropractor for like a month, and then I needed to look for work because I took work off for so long. And I was like inching towards moving to Atlanta because I have connections down there. And I was at this pivot where it's like, hey, the short film's done. I don't have a direct connection to the work here right now. There's no reason I couldn't just like 180 out of here. And then COVID happened, so no studios were really trying to meet up. So then I started to get nervous about work. And luckily, Target ended up kind of like, it just took a lapse because when I left to work on this thing, we had talked about the date I was coming back and whatnot. So that ended up, getting me back into that cycle. And then I had a connection that was giving me into some music videos that so it just naturally snowballed. So then work was feeling covered. I'm still feeling weird about the fact that I can't go anywhere, but it was, I don't want to say funny, but it was definitely interesting to do this really introverted last 3 months or 4 months, come out being like, I'm ready to get into the world. I'm ready to take on the world, meet some new people, network some more, and show people this film. And okay, nobody can go anywhere or meet each other, so I'm gonna just go back to exactly what I was doing for the last 4 months, which was a little disheartening, but at the same time I was like, you know what, I just did that for 4 months. I have a routine down. I'll just go right back into it. And that's where I am now, just doing the same routine and doing some contract work. So overall, not so bad. And I do think any freelance or contract motion designers watching can kind of relate into like, we're in a decent spot where if you're not working with live footage, maybe we're even being dependent on a little bit harder. And we're kind of, I'm very grateful to be in that position and to hopefully, continuously get work through this.
Nice. So before you decided to make a short film, you were employed and you were able to pay off your student loans and whatnot. So you had a pretty good support system already. So it must have been pretty scary to say, you know what, I'm going to put all of you on hold for a few months, and then to come back and they're not necessarily there and not because of anything you did, but just because of the world is kind of crazy. Tokyo Megaplex, I do want to shout out your very good turn of phrase. He asks, so you got turnout burnout?
I did get turnout burnout.
I think Maddie Haynes asked very early on in the stream, what does turnout mean? Why did you call it turnout?
That's a good question. I did want to give it a name that wasn't just like a random, whatever. And I'm trying to remember the writing process because it was very straight ahead. I knew I wanted a chase scene. I knew I wanted a little bit of dialogue, and then it just naturally became like heavy. Like the ending was like a heavy ending. So the train just like appeared because I had the image of the carts and these two buddies being separated and the light through the cart. Like I had that in my head. So the train thing being a thing was like, okay, well then how can I like integrate that with the name? Is there something that has to do with that? And with the story being these two characters who are friends and separating, I was like, hey, so like, what's that thing called? Is there a name for that part in the train that changes lanes? And lo and behold, it was called a turnout, which I think symbolizes what these characters are going through, where they're coming to a cross in their paths and separating and going down two different paths. So that's it. That's
a very good title, y'all. It's a thinker.
Oh, shucks. Yeah, I think there's other names for those things too, but turnout was just like a one word kind of deal that I could smack together, and it looked nicely when I wrote it on a piece of paper.
I think this will be the last question we take for the evening. I just want to thank you again before we take this question and say how fun it's been having you on, and how we've learned a lot just from watching you do Hellivision streams.
We didn't know what we were doing either. We've had streams completely go down in the middle, so as we both learned to do streams, y'all should just be expecting this.
So here we go. Last question from Sarah Schmidt. What do you hope people feel when they watch it? How does it make you feel when you watch it? What the vibe?
I want people to cry. No, it's. What do I hope I want people to feel? I want them to enjoy it. I don't want them to look over at me and go like, "The fuck did you spend all this time on doing this?" Which hasn't been the case, which is good. No, I want people to connect. I want people to get an idea of what these characters are feeling and that tension in friendship, about passion and career and the whole like art versus money versus like, are you selling out or are you pursuing something noble, and what are you sacrificing? I just wanted that to be something considered, and then with the chase scene, just a little bit of eye candy to keep people engaged, and then the ending has gotten some pretty good feedback. I think people get a little sad, get bummed, and to actually have an emotional reaction to something you make is endearing, like good or bad or the emotion. I don't want people to feel bad, but the fact that I think people do connect to these characters early on, and then they watch that interaction at the end of like watching your friend and knowing that like this is not the goodbye you wanted to have, and not the way you wanted things to go, and maybe had things gone differently, you would both be on the same side of things, but like it's coming to face with that reality of like, oh, like that's that person, and at this point right now, like I can't change them, they have to kind of do their own thing, and I did want Sven's action at the end to be like him kind of taking hold of his own situation and putting his friend first, and like there is like understanding, but it just didn't end up being the happiest of ways to kind of come to terms with that. So what was the second half? It was, how does it make you feel when you watch it? I see every single mistake and I want to fix it.
Yeah, that's kind of going to be anything you ever make. You'll only ever see the mistakes.
No, and from the emotional standpoint, I feel like I was able to get the story across. And I think when I look at how I want to edit this thing, I feel really good about it because nothing about the core story has to change. The characters don't have to change. The story doesn't have to change. The dialogue doesn't have to change. There's just like some polish that needs to be added to it. So I feel good because I do think the story comes across, and I do think people connect to it.
That's awesome. We're gonna switch to this screen so that we can be the same size. Oh, can you scoot just a little over? Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, now if you look to your right, yes, and then we can kind of do a fake handshake. Bear with me, it's cheesy as hell, but we're gonna do it. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
Turnout is amazing. It's been wonderful working with you, and we'll see all of you, our audience, all of the Nice Moves community. Next month, we're gonna be doing I believe it's gonna be a Houdini tutorial with Zach. Shoot, I can't remember his last name right now, but it's gonna be amazing. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for watching.